My name is Justin Folger. Allow me to be the first to welcome you to The Help, Thoughts from Millennial College Kids. If you've never been exposed to the literary masterpiece known as The Help, it begins in the 1960s in the southern state of Mississippi. As Skeeter, a young society college girl, comes home with aspirations of being a writer. Her writing begins to turn the world upside down as she interviews African-American maids and gives them for the first time a true voice. Joining us today on The Help, Thoughts with Millennial College Kids are, you guessed it, Millennial College Kids. Our first guest star, who has read the book The Help, will be telling us their thoughts on this literary masterpiece.
James Trumka.
I really like The Help a lot. I had heard of it before we read it in Mrs. Reardon's class, but it's a great book. It's funny, it's hilarious, it keeps your attention, and I think it's really cool the style that Kathryn Stockett wrote it in, how she did the 3 different perspectives. So you get, in each chapter, or every few chapters, you get to see inside each of the 3 main characters' heads and see it play out, which I really like that idea of where you have separate storylines merging together, which they do obviously at the end of the book, even throughout the book. And I just think it's cool the way that she approached the topic too of like race in like the 1960s, and like just the way she went about doing it I thought was really cool and clever and not boring. Like, it's a very fun, entertaining, hilarious read. I can't believe, like, I picked up the book and looked at it again, and it was I was like, this book was 500 pages. Like, I remember it went by so quick when I was reading it, because it's a great book. Like, I love it. The humor's great, and the way she goes about addressing the topic of race and showing how that plays out, I think is really fantastic. So, love The Help. And don't eat the chocolate pie.
Thank you, James, for that insightful answer. The next question that we've asked our Millennial College Kids is about the book The Help specifically. One of the major themes of the book is to give African Americans a voice and a chance to be heard. 2/3 of the book, actually, is written by 2 African American maids. However, the book itself, like the novel that was published, is written by a white woman named Kathryn Stockett. What we want to know are what are some of the benefits and some of the downfalls with that decision.
I think it's fine. I think that, from what I remember, she seemed to portray the black maids in a positive light, and I think that, there's not a big problem with that. I think that one of the things that could be, obviously, some issue is that since she was written by a white woman, she can't fully relate to kind of their struggles. She's writing it from her own perspective, and, I'm not gonna say anything too terrible, but I just think that, as kind of like as a dominant culture and people group in society, we definitely have certain things and certain privileges that other people certainly don't have.
Thank you, Reed, for that answer. Looks like you answered that question from your bunk in your dorm room. No problem with that. What we want to know is how have things changed for the better because of the civil rights movement of the 1960s? And what ways do we still have to improve? What are our shortcomings?
I think that one way we have improved on the issue of social rights is by giving everyone a platform to speak. More people can give their opinion instead of just like people in charge, people with power. But I think that because of that, there's a lot of like tension and arguing, and I think that we still have a ways to go with finding how to better deal with that. and resolve those arguments without everything being blown out of proportion.
So, what's really encouraging to me is, obviously Martin Luther King Jr. His ability to preach wonderful, powerful, convicting sermons was just absolutely amazing. And I think that one of the things that was really improved in the civil rights movement in the 60s is gave people a more cosmopolitan approach, because if you think about it, this kingdom we're called to serve, God's kingdom isn't just a bunch of white people. It's people from all tribes, all tongues, and all nations. That includes African Americans in the South, that includes Africans from Africa, that includes people from the Middle East, people from Europe, Asia, everywhere. And so I think that giving people a more cosmopolitan, universal approach to this kingdom, this ministry, this great commission of ours is not supposed to be kept to ourselves. And so people have now been more exposed to other cultures and whatnot. So I think one of the things that the Civil Rights Movement did really well is open our minds to the world outside.
Civil rights have improved because we are living in a multi-ethnic institution with people of all races.
And especially here at Moody, we have a lot of clubs and stuff that really embrace diversity and cross-cultural ministries.
Oh, you're back. What'd you think of those last answers? Weren't they awesome? They were good, weren't they? Our next question is a little bit more difficult. It also deals directly with the issue of civil rights and how to better deal with them. Our question is this: is it more important to be colorblind and treat everyone with respect, regardless of their skin color, but risk ignoring somebody's heritage? Or is it more important to celebrate diversity, yet risk inciting some division? Take it away, you millennial college kids.
One, interesting question, really difficult question. And I really want to do this in the spot because I didn't really want to think about this and really get my gut reaction. But if I had to pick one on whether it'd be not to treat everyone colorblind and ignoring people's heritage, or try and celebrate diversity and risk inciting some violence or some unrest between people, I think I would have to go with trying to treat people colorblind and ignoring people's heritage, because ultimately in the world we live in, it's really hard to realize how much a person can be offended by culture and people that really impact them. And so, yeah, I think it'd be hard just because it's unsafe. Ultimately, I think it depends on the situation. But if I had to pick one option, I had to say treat people colorblind.
I think that it's more important to celebrate diversity and the heritage of our brothers and sisters around us. And if you approach it with respect and care for the other person, I don't think that they'll take it offensively. So it's more important to just celebrate diversity together.
I think it's important not to lean too far to one extreme or the other. To not lean so far and be completely colorblind that you don't see that there are differences in people, and treating everybody the same isn't good. But then conversely, being very diverse and focusing on diversity. I go to Kent State, and literally all people talk about is diversity. I hear it all over the board. Oh, diversity. Oh, we're so different. All these differences. We need to celebrate these differences. Which is good, but if you focus so much on diversity, then you're not focusing enough on the unity in the ways that people are the same and how they connect together. So that's why I think the best way to look at it is to find somewhere in the middle, a happy medium, where you recognize that people do have differences and you can celebrate those differences, but those recognitions don't go so far as to affect the way that you treat other people. So just because for example, I treat someone who's African American, I should recognize oh, they are different from me, they've had a different experience, but I shouldn't let that be so much that well, I'm going to treat them good or bad just because of who they are. Recognizing those differences of people and still treating people as humans, because we're all equal, we all are human beings, we just share differences. So I think it's important to recognize the diversity, but still treat people equally as the human beings that they are.
I believe we ought to celebrate diversity even if it means risking some division, because if we look back at the church, the people who God called were from all different cultures, all different areas of the world, ranging from the Jews to the Gentiles to an Ethiopian eunuch of all people. He called in everyone and never said you have to be of one culture. Yes, part of their cultures had to be dismantled from their worldview, such as pagan worship, but in all fairness, Christ called people from all over the world, and he corrected their view with the good theology and teaching through his apostles. Thus, to get rid of that would be detrimental to the church in the different functions we serve.
My name's Garrett Hirsch, if you couldn't already tell by the swords in the background. I think, yes, in some ways we should be colorblind, specifically in light of the fact that we are, each and every one of us, made in the image of God. We have a certain sort of set apartness, if you will. And this comes from Genesis, where it says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. So we have this idea that mankind is set apart from the rest of creation. And with that, every person you see walking down the hallways, walking down the street, every person you come in contact with is made in the image of the living God. And so, with that, to the other side of the question, I also believe that yes, we should celebrate each and every person's heritage, background, their differences, their uniqueness. I look to myself, I'm unique and different from every person around me. And look to my heritage, I have a lot of German heritage in me. And I'm fine with that, because not everybody is like that. Not everybody has the same heritage as me. And I think that should be celebrated. I mean, you've probably all heard the saying that just, if we were all the same, it'd be a boring world to live in. And I frankly agree with that. So, yeah, I'd say I fall kind of in between, where we should all respect each other and love each other while celebrating our unique differences. So,
I think it's better to celebrate diversity. And it's not because humans are so good and humans are so great, not even because each ethnicity is this amazing and this awesome, but because it shows the power of God. It shows the grandeur of his redemption to humanity. It's telling the world, it's telling us that God is so great. He can save those from every kind of background. He can spread his gospel to every person, no matter their language, their tribe, their tongue, their history. What we should do is celebrate that God loves us, that in the church we are all significant, we're all accepted, and we're all valued, despite our tribe, tongue, and language.
Wasn't that incredible? That's about all the time we have for today, though. Thank you to all of our guest stars and to all of the people that have made this possible. I'd say to tune in next time, but this is a one-time English project, so if you missed this one, you missed them all. And that's a wrap. Stay classy, San Diego.
Hi CBCA, hi Mrs. Reardon. I don't know, some of you probably remember me from 7th grade English class. This is my daughter Andrea is filming this, and then this is my daughter Athena, my youngest son Wesley, and my older son Ethan.
Well, as we walk around Ecuador, I see a lot of people stare at us because we're a different culture than they are, and we're a different race than they are. But that doesn't mean that we treat them differently just because they treat us differently.
We all see differently. Be colorblind because
I think that being colorblind would be better is because we are all created in the image of God.
So Justin and the group, I think it's actually a pretty complicated question. My goal, I think the goal that should be for most people, or all people, is that we would try to see individuals as they are and as God made them.